Hi, welcome. Today we are going to learn how to create these teapots using basic student gouache, which is from Mont Marte. So the first step is to directly take some paint in your brush and create the shape of the first teacup. I'm going to create like a trapezium. So you will notice that this particular gouache, although it is creamy, it ends up showing some of the brush strokes. So if you want to avoid doing this, you can use Vincent & Newton gouache, which I feel is one of the best ones which is there. So with gouache, you just have to remember that you need to have the consistency to be a little creamy and not very watery like watercolors. So that is an important thing to do. I have now created the second shape using a nice teal color. Although the colors are creamy, since it is student grade, you will notice that a lot of the brush strokes are seen. It's completely fine. You just need to wait for this to dry out so you can add another layer. I'm now creating the third one with a yellow. You can create very beautiful pastel colors by mixing white with your gouache, and the next one that we're going to create is a very nice green. In this particular one, I'm making it pretty watery to help you to understand what is the final effect if you create a gouache teacup with a lot of water instead of making it creamy. So the patches here are quite visible. You'll have to wait for this to dry and then you can create a second layer over it. Next is one in pink. This is medium consistency, so you can see that it's not creating the patchiness like the green one. I'm now going to go over the first few ones with another layer since it has dried out pretty much, and you'll notice that when the second layer is applied, it starts getting a little more opaque. Same here for the blue. So if you're using any other gouache like Vincent & Newton or Bristol, you might not face this issue. This is generally seen with student gouache. Now the next one is with a really dark color. If you are a beginner, then it would be a good idea to draw out these shapes with your pencil, but very lightly, because sometimes gouache doesn't tend to be completely opaque. So you can create these shapes first with your pencil and then fill them in with your gouache. I'm now going to create my next one with some brown. This is more like a rectangular teacup. Now that the green has dried, I'm going over it again to make it look a little more opaque and to reduce the amount of patchiness. But since I'm going to add some patterns over it, it's okay if it's a little patchy. We're going to let the rest of them dry and create our last teacup shape, which is going to be in the shape of an inverted trapezium. We can go now to the first one which has dried and create some patterns with a dark red or a dark pink on it. I'm going to create like 1-inch lines in random directions over it. You can also create these details using your color pencils. If your base is a little not too thick, then it's easier. Now you can see how this color has got activated because some portion of my teacup at the base was a little wet, but never mind, you can always wait for this to dry up and you can add the lighter color next to it. So one thing about gouache is that you can add light to dark, dark to light. It really doesn't matter. That way it works like acrylics. So it's a lot of fun to do these kind of experiments with gouache. Now we're going on to the second cup, onto which I'm taking a nice orange to create some patterns onto this one. Feel free to add any patterns that you like. You could go with different shapes, you could go with polka dots, you could go with triangles, squares, anything that you like. So what I like about these kind of exercises is that first thing is your sketchbook looks really interesting and fun, and the second thing is it forces your mind to think out of the ordinary. Now I'm going to add in some plus sign pattern onto my third teacup. This is a pattern that I really enjoy creating, and I think it's very easy also. So this is something you can also use your sketch pens to create on top of it, but if your base layer is thick, your sketch pens might get spoiled. So try using your brush. It'll also help you to improve your brush technique. So you can also use your color pencils like I said earlier, but only if your base is pretty light and not as thick as the one that we created right now. I'm going to now take a little darker green to create for the fourth one, where I'm just going pretty random in terms of the pattern. It's more like a floral pattern. It's like petals coming out. You can create maybe something like this, which will help you to highlight different sections of it. This could be like a ceramic teacup, which has its bottom section done in a slightly darker color. You've noticed that in all the 4 teacups we've got a lighter base and a darker pattern. For the pink, I'm still going to be using a darker pattern, but you can experiment by creating a lighter pattern over it. I'm waiting for the pink to dry out a little bit before I add on the next color on top of it. I'm going to create now some polka dots over this. For the next teacup, which is for the dark blue one, I'm going to use a lighter shade on top of it to show you the pattern, and you'll notice how easy it is to create it over gouache as compared to watercolors. Just make sure that you don't rub the brush over the bottom layer too many times, because it will activate the base color. So my suggestion would be to just go really light or not very heavy on your brush. That will help you to maintain the base color and the layer on top. Next, we're going to create for the teapot in the end. I'm going to use a very light beige color to add these floral patterns over it. Try and match these teacups to the ones that you have at home with you. You might have ones which have multiple colors. Currently we are just playing around with 2 colors. Now I'm going to create for the last one. I'm just checking out if we can create a nice spiral over this. Sometimes the color that you create on your palette might seem fine, but when you do it on your paper, it might not be okay. So I'm creating a slightly brighter yellow now to create this pattern over the last one. I hope you had a good time watching this with me. Do try these out, and you can tag me on Instagram at @artbynikita, and I'll be able to see what you created. Do subscribe to my channel for getting more tutorials and updates, and don't forget to click the bell icon. Thank you.